The message came in broken, shaking through static and blood. "This is Sergeant Redden, Outpost 6. They're not diplomats. Not explorers. They lied. They're culling us." Then nothing. No signal, no scream. Just the low, final hum of silence from the far side of the galaxy. The brass said it was a glitch, a fluke transmission from a dead rock. But I'd served with Redden. I knew his voice, and I knew what fear sounded like in a man who once walked through the infernos of Titan with a grin on his face. The bastards had made first contact on their terms, silk tongues, gilded words, technology we didn't have the power to match. They landed in our skies and offered unity, a place in their collective. What they meant was obedience. Earth signed the treaties, gave up orbital defenses, integrated fleets, unified under the Council of 11 systems, all smiles, all peace. Until they started sending us off-world. Integration missions, they called it, turned into labor camps, testing facilities. Human colonies started going dark one by one. And then Outpost 6 sent its last message. They made a mistake. They left enough of us alive to remember. I was stationed in the inner belt, working salvage with a crew of ex-Marines who weren't good at civilian life. We didn't get news fast, but we got word when Earth finally saw it for what it was. A massacre. The kind we never saw coming because we were too busy playing nice with creatures who saw us as beasts. They underestimated us. They thought Earth was soft, that we'd forgotten how to fight. They were wrong. We didn't ask permission. We didn't wait for orders. We broke into the sealed comm archives, pulled every location the original Deathworlders had ever scouted, and started building ships not made for diplomacy, but vengeance. We were supposed to be disarmed, but you can't disarm what you can't see. They didn't know how many of us were off-grid. They didn't know about the scrapyards turned war factories, or the orbital stations we'd converted into death engines while pretending to cooperate. They'd never fought a cornered predator. They thought we were prey. The first strike was on the Drellin outpost in the Persei Loop. We dropped in with zero warning. No hails, no theatrics, just fire and steel. The Drellin tried to send a message back, but we jammed every channel and left no survivors. Burned the station to ash and carved one word into its remains. Remember, we weren't fighting a war. We were cleaning up a betrayal. Every planet they took from us, we scorched. Every outpost they used to dissect our people, we turned into rubble. Every envoy they sent after that came with peace offerings and deep regret. We sent their heads back. But this story ain't about politics. It ain't about Earth or pride or patriotism. This is about me, and the unit I lost, and the alien command center where I buried my rage in broken bodies. It's about blood, cold and hot. It's about the moment I stopped seeing stars as possibilities and started seeing them as targets, because they made a mistake. They sent one message, and we, the Deathworlders, came back to finish the fucking job. We hit Drellin Station in under 6 minutes. No glory, no surrender. Just a coordinated sweep through every corridor like wolves let off the leash. I remember the smell, a mix of scorched metal and alien flesh. You don't forget it. You can wash it off your armor, you can scrub it from your gloves, but it sits in your memory like smoke in a lung. Some of the crew gagged the first time they stepped over a split-open Drellin body. Not me. I led the breach. I pulled the charge that took out their central reactor. I put my knife through the skull of their commander when he tried to offer me a peace disc. He said, "Let's not become monsters." I said, "Too late!" And I twisted the blade until he stopped twitching. We were just a small fire team, 8 men who'd seen too much to go back to civilian life. Not polished soldiers, not diplomats. We were what the galaxy called Deathworlders, and we wore that like a badge now. A species that grew up in poison air, gravity too heavy for most, storms that could split trees, and predators that hunted from birth to death. Earth made us hard. The galaxy had called us uncivilized, unstable, volatile. They were right, and they should have left us the hell alone. Our ship, the Vindicator, was once a mining freighter, now armored in stolen alloys and rigged with enough guns to level a city. She didn't look like much. That was the point. We let them underestimate us every time. In the hold, we had 3 mechs, 16 drones, a railgun system stripped from a downed Thalrex destroyer, and something we called the Package, a bioweapon Earth Command had disavowed. But in the dark corners of the Resistance, things got built anyway. No rules, no questions. That night we celebrated the Drellin massacre, not because we were proud, but because we were still alive. We lost Kenzie, throat torn open in a side room when a Drellin shock unit got through the blind spot. We burned him on the hull, the old way. Wrapped in his Earth flag, body sealed in his armor. No fancy funeral, just the roaring flame against vacuum and the silence of a man who died with his rifle in his grip. 1 down, 7 left. I sat alone after that, watching the starfield, drinking half-purified ethanol that made my tongue numb. I replayed Redden's last message. I still had it in my HUD. His voice cracked near the end. That wasn't fear. It was rage. They hadn't just executed the outpost. They dissected it. We found logs. They'd been testing human endurance, cutting into soldiers without anesthesia, watching how long they'd scream before the brain shut down. Their science teams called us resilient vermin. I watched 1 video. Just 1. That was enough. The next target was picked. Halari Prime. Bigger station, heavily defended, a diplomatic hub they used as a chokehold on the sector. That's where the decisions had been made, where Earth's surrender had been broadcast through smiling alien mouths, while our leaders stood like cowards in the background. Halari was the beating heart of their so-called Council of Harmony. It was time to rip it out. We linked up with 2 other human cells, one led by a guy named Ward. Real bastard. Didn't care about civilian casualties, didn't care about clean hits, just results. We needed him. Ward's team brought tech we didn't even recognize, plasma bursters made from hybrid Thalrex circuits, neural grenades that melted thoughts before they melted flesh. He was ex-Black Ops, the kind of man you don't invite to weddings, but beg to join your death mission. The operation was simple in theory. Breach the orbital array, jam comms, disable the shield core, get in, kill everyone in uniform, leave a message, but war's never simple. Not when the enemy's expecting retaliation. We jumped into the Halari system behind an asteroid field, silent drives engaged. The station looked like a floating cathedral, golden arcs, long crystal towers, glowing with blue ion light. Beautiful, elegant, and built by monsters. I briefed the crew. We're not here to negotiate. We're not here to talk. This is vengeance. What they did to us doesn't get forgiven, and we're not asking Earth's permission. We finish what they started. They all nodded. Even the youngest, Tarek, just 22 with eyes too clear for this kind of mission. But he was the best damn hacker we had. And he'd lost his sister at Outpost 6. We strapped in, loaded rounds, sealed suits. Tarek looped the station's sensor feed so we looked like drifting debris. Ward's team hit the shield relays from the far side, a coordinated strike that blinded the Halari for just under 2 minutes. That's all we needed. We breached the lower hangar. No alarms, no shouting. We killed 12 guards before they even knew we were inside. Tarek sliced their comm tower from the inside out. The whole place went dark, no messages in or out. We stormed the main hall where the council operated. They were holding a vote, cowards in silk robes, sipping from long-necked crystal flasks, casting digital ballots while billions died. I still remember the look on the face of their High Minister when I kicked open the chamber doors. Wide eyes, half a breath of protest, then a bullet through his jaw. The rest ran. Some tried to hide, some begged, some offered data, access codes, bribes. Didn't matter. We cleared the floor in 3 minutes. No survivors. Tarek uploaded the footage of the Outpost 6 autopsies to every terminal in the system. Played it on repeat. He added one line of text under each screaming video. You made us monsters. Ward took a different route. He found their civilian sections, families, staffers, even children. He vented the entire level to space. I stopped him from doing it a second time, but I didn't stop the first. That's on me. We left the station with its core destabilizing. Fire ripped through it as we flew off. Bodies still falling through shattered windows. Screams cut short by vacuum. That night, we didn't celebrate. Nobody spoke. Not even Ward. A week later, the Council made a broadcast. Not to Earth, not to us, to the rest of the galaxy. They called us terrorists, rogue humans, war criminals. They claimed we attacked innocent stations without provocation. No mention of Outpost 6. No mention of the torture labs. No mention of the broken treaties. Just silence, wrapped in lies. They thought they'd turn the galaxy against us. Didn't matter. We weren't fighting for their approval. We were fighting for every soldier who never made it home. Our next mission came through encrypted channels, a message from what was left of the UNSC Black Division. Said they had eyes on the location of the Araban core, a power nexus for the Council's deep space fleet. It wasn't just a station, it was a fortress. Over 200,000 enemy troops, automated defenses, shield rings, fleet presence, and one hell of a chance to make them bleed. But we'd need more than ships. We'd need allies, not the ones wearing flags, the ones who'd been used too. Turns out we weren't the only species the Council had betrayed. We started making calls, and for the first time in 100 years, humanity wasn't alone in the fire. We met them in a dead system. 3 black suns, no planets, just drifting rock and cold silence. A good place to hide. A better place to plan a war. The ship that arrived first looked like a claw wrapped around a tumor. No symmetry, no elegance, just raw function and damage. It was called the Howl, and it belonged to the Zarkari. They weren't what you'd call pretty. 8-limbed, plated exoskeletons, eyes like oil slicks, voices like bone-grinding metal. But they hated the Council more than we did, if that's even possible. Their species had been uplifted centuries ago by the same bastards that offered peace to Earth. The Zarkari had been given advanced tech and training in exchange for their loyalty. And when they became too independent, the Council culled half their colonies and implanted control chips into the rest. The Zarkari broke free a generation later and went feral. Now, they lived in the dark, waiting for payback. When they saw what we did to Halari Prime, they sent a message. Human fire is honest fire. We burn with you. That was all we needed. Next came the Kethari. They used to be Council enforcers, sleek, precise, surgical. Think of them as the galaxy's secret police, bred for silence, trained to eliminate uprisings before they bloomed. But someone inside their breeding chambers broke protocol. A mutation. A Cathari who didn't suppress emotions, who started asking questions. His name was Irtan. He killed his handlers, released the failed batches, and vanished into deep space. Now he commanded a rogue fleet of assassins, each ship cloaked, each warrior enhanced with cybernetics. They didn't want money. They didn't want territory. They wanted blood. When we showed them what the Council did to our people, the vivisections, the breeding experiments, the psychological warfare, Irtan simply replied, "There is no forgiveness for genocide." And the Kethari joined the Deathworlders. We didn't form a government. We weren't building a nation. We were an alliance of the broken, the betrayed, and the forgotten. Each species had their own reasons. Each warrior had a name etched into their soul, someone they lost, someone they couldn't save. And in the center of it all was us, humans, Deathworlders, the virus the Council couldn't contain. The Araban core sat like a cancer at the edge of known space. It was their fortress, their power station, and their command tower wrapped into one. No one attacked it before. No one even tried. The last fleet that approached got shredded before it cleared the asteroid perimeter. But we had something the Council didn't expect. We were willing to die, and we were willing to kill every last thing that stood between us and justice, no matter how high the body count climbed. Our war council met aboard the Howl. The interior looked like the inside of a rib cage. Dim red light, moist air, walls that pulsed like breathing meat. Disgusting, but safe. Irtan stood to my right, all bone and chrome, with black eyes that never blinked. To my left was Commander Thrall of the Zarkari, armored in what looked like insect shell fused with industrial scrap. I outlined the plan with holomaps. The core is defended by 3 shield rings, automated, each with its own power source. We can't hit them with brute force. We need to shut them down from the inside. Irtan's voice came like ice through a grinder. We can insert teams via stealth pods, disable the nodes, but the moment one ring falls, they'll know. Thrall hissed, his mandibles twitching. Then we strike as soon as the first fails. Full burn, total aggression. They won't know what part of the sky death is coming from. I nodded. We'll use the distraction to land on the core itself. Ground teams take the command deck, destroy the control nexus. We don't retreat. We don't negotiate. No one objected. We weren't generals. We were survivors. Back on the Vindicator, I gathered my crew. Only 5 of us left now. Tarek, Maddox, Reese, Vara, and me. Kenzie was dead. Griggs was still in a coma from the Halnari blast wave. And Ward didn't make it back. Took a plasma blade through the neck in the hangar bay and bled out before we could stabilize him. He went down laughing. Crazy bastard. Tarek sat in the cockpit, running simulations. His hands trembled just a little. He was good at hiding it, but I saw. He was young, brilliant, and held together by rage. The kind of man who either becomes a hero or burns himself out before he ever gets old. I leaned against the console and said, "You ready for this?" He didn't look at me. "I just want to kill them." Simple. Director, honest. I clapped his shoulder. "Then let's make it count." We launched a day later. 3 cloaked fleets approaching from different vectors. The Zarkari came in hard and fast, drawing fire with massive heat signatures. The Kethari slipped in under their shadow, undetected, and pierced the outer shield ring with precision strikes. Inside the Araban core, chaos erupted. Lights died, systems glitched, internal defenses activated, but aimed in the wrong directions. And in that sliver of confusion, the Vindicator punched through. We hit the hangar deck doing twice the recommended velocity, skidding on impact, sparks flying. Maddox was already out the hatch before the ship stopped moving, plasma rifle barking. We landed in the middle of hell. Araban guards in gold armor fired from elevated platforms. Drones zipped through smoke. The air was thick with ozone and panic. My HUD lit up with targets, friendlies, and corpses. I moved fast. 1 shot, 1 drop. Every trigger pull brought a name to my lips. Redden, Kenzie, my sister, my old commander. Every bullet was a grave marker. Tarek stayed in the rear, running interference, hacking doors, overriding security, keeping our map live. We split into fire teams. Reese and Vara took left flank. Maddox and I went right. We had one goal: breach the command deck, plant the spike, and trigger a feedback overload that would detonate the entire core. Simple. Except nothing in war is simple. 3 corridors in, we hit resistance. Not Araban, Council elite. They wore black armor trimmed in silver, moved like ghosts, fired weapons we'd never seen before, disintegration tech that erased limbs on contact. Reese took a hit in the gut. Gone. Just gone. No scream. No warning. One moment she was beside me. The next, nothing but red mist. I dragged Vara back behind cover while Maddox laid down suppressing fire. I turned to Tarek through comms. We need a way around. I'm working on it. Faster. I know. He cracked a maintenance tunnel in the east wall. It was tight, barely wide enough for one armored body at a time. We crawled through blood and coolant drips, rats scattering underfoot. Every second was a countdown to disaster. We hit the command deck 20 minutes later. It looked like a church, high ceilings, glowing runes, a central pillar of pure energy, the control nexus. And standing between us and it was a prime, a biological hybrid, council engineered for war, twice my height, 8 limbs, armor that pulsed like it was alive. Its voice boomed through the chamber. You are anomalies. You were meant to be tamed. I raised my rifle. Too bad we bite. And then all hell broke loose. The prime was fast. Too fast. It knocked Maddox into a wall hard enough to shatter his ribs. Vara got a blade through her shoulder before she even screamed. I took a hit to the leg. Not enough to stop me, but enough to slow me. Tarek screamed in my ear, "Buy me 2 minutes, that's all I need!" So I ran straight at the prime. Not smart, not tactical, but effective. It caught me by the throat, lifted me off the ground. I felt my vision fade, blood pulsing behind my eyes, but I smiled. Because while its attention was on me, Tarek slipped behind the control pillar and slammed the spike into the data port. The feedback surge was immediate. The lights flickered, the prime twitched, its grip faltered. I slammed my knife into its throat, once, twice, 3 times, until its body dropped like stone. Tarek stumbled out, nose bleeding. Done. Timer's live. We have 60 seconds. I grabbed Maddox. Vara followed, limping. We ran. We barely made it back to the Vindicator. Half the hangar was on fire. Council troops screamed behind us. Drones clipped our heels. We launched through debris, hull tearing, alarms screaming. Behind us, the Araban core pulsed once, then exploded in a light so bright it turned the night into fire. Tarek collapsed on the floor, breathing ragged. Vara bled into the seat next to him. Maddox was unconscious. I sat in the cockpit, hands still trembling, eyes locked on the burning wreckage that used to be the Council's heart. We did it, but the war wasn't over. They'd come back harder, angrier, and we'd be waiting. Because we weren't fighting for glory, we were Deathworlders. And this galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. The Araban core burned for 3 days. You could see the smoke trails from 6 systems out. The Council denied it at first, said it was a power fluctuation, a containment error. But you can't lie your way out of that kind of crater. Thousands dead. A central hub turned to drifting wreckage. Multiple races involved. No one believed the cover-up, not even their allies. The transmission we sent after the blast was short. Just 3 words. Justice isn't clean. And we signed it with the Earth sigil. The one they tried to erase from history. Back on the Vindicator, the price of our so-called justice was clear. Maddox's lungs collapsed mid-flight. Vara lost her left arm. Tarek hadn't spoken since the explosion. Shock, maybe. Maybe just exhaustion. Me, I was fine, physically, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Reese's body vaporizing, saw Ward's neck spraying red, saw the Prime's eyes before I drove the knife in. Some part of me was starting to wonder if we were still human. But then I'd replay Redden's last message, or one of the vids from the Outpost labs. And I'd remember. They started this. They made us monsters. We just embraced it. We were drifting near a broken moon in the Kolar system when the call came in. It wasn't encrypted, wasn't hidden. It came straight through the open frequency. Council transmission. Their spokesperson, a soft-skinned, blue-lit creature with the voice of honey, appeared on our screen. Smiling like we hadn't just turned their strongest fortress into molten dust. Human unit, your crusade is noted. We acknowledge your message, and we respond with mercy. Mercy? Surrender. Lay down your arms. Return your species to Council custody. We will forgive these acts and reintroduce your kind into the fold, under stricter containment. They actually thought we'd break. I leaned into the camera and spoke slowly. You think we want your forgiveness? You think we're fighting for a seat at your table? I spat on the deck. We're here to flip the damn table. Then I ended the call. 2 hours later, they launched the retaliation. Not a fleet, not a strike. Worse, they hit Earth. We didn't get the full details until later, but what we did get made me sick. A Council detachment of Thalrex enforcers used a slipstream gate hidden near Neptune, an illegal one, bypassing Earth's early detection grid. They hit New Geneva, the new capital, in less than a minute. Orbital bombardment, civilian centers targeted first, not military installations, not defense arrays, schools, hospitals, churches. That was their message. We can reach your heart, and we'll make it bleed. Over 90,000 dead. In minutes. We got a fragment of a live feed from a surviving drone. People screaming in fire, bodies charred mid-step, a child holding a melted teddy bear, staring at the sky with eyes full of glass. Tarek watched that footage on loop. Then locked himself in the engine bay for 6 hours. When he came out, he had rewritten our entire targeting system from scratch. His voice was dead flat when he said, "We don't leave a single one breathing next time." The crew wanted revenge, immediate, no discussion. But I knew something was off. This wasn't just about punishing us, this was about baiting us. The Council was bleeding, yes, but they were still strategic and smart. They wanted us to lash out, to hit Earth back and pull every rogue fleet in our alliance into one place, so they could wipe us out all at once. Classic trap. The kind of move a politician makes, not a warrior. We weren't taking the bait. Not yet. I called an emergency gathering of the Rogue Alliance. Zarkari, Cathari, the Urdai Resistance, even some Vular traders who'd lost half their species in a cleansing operation decades ago. We met on Outpost Brim, an abandoned mining station now turned into a floating black market war room. The lights flickered. The oxygen was thin. Everything stank of sweat, oil, and desperation. But it was ours. I stood in front of the gathered force, not thousands, not armies. Just a few hundred veterans, traitors, freaks, and monsters. The Council called us scum. They were right. We were the filth that crawled back from extinction and brought fire in our teeth. We don't run, I said. We don't beg. But we don't walk into their trap either. Earth burns, and they expect us to go screaming after vengeance. Not yet. Not like that. The Zarkari commander snapped his claws. Then what? Wait while they butcher our nests? I pointed at the hologram. We hit their backup fleet instead, the one guarding the Kryar vault. That got silence. The Kryar vault wasn't a battlefield. It was a treasure trove, a hidden fortress storing centuries of stolen tech, forbidden weapons, and council-only prototypes. Even the name was spoken in hushed tones. It wasn't a war target. It was a goddamn myth. Until now. Tarek found it, pieced together fragments from old blueprints, cross-referenced deep space distortion fields, tracked unauthorized warp signatures. He found it. If we take the vault, I said, we take their edge. We even the field. We stop playing defense, we stop reacting, we become the storm. Irtan, silent until then, spoke in a voice like a whisper underwater. They will come, with everything. I nodded. Let them. We'll have their own weapons waiting. The vote passed, unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, enemies, rivals, and former prey aligned under a single command, not out of unity, but vengeance. The next 2 weeks were chaos. We upgraded every ship, grafted Zarkari shielding to Cathari engines, welded plasma lances onto human dropships. Tarek even rigged a gravitational warhead, unstable, untested, suicidal. He called it the Hammer. It looked like a junk heap fused to a dying star, and I loved it. The attack was planned with surgical precision, not brute force, not another suicide run. We'd learned from Halari. This time we weren't leaving anyone behind. On the day of the strike, the Vindicator felt different, heavier, not in weight, in spirit. Maddox was still recovering. Vara had a prosthetic now, a vicious claw rigged with electric pulses. Tarek hadn't slept in days. And me? I wasn't the same man who'd led a breach team onto Drellin Station. That man wanted revenge. I wanted extinction. As we jumped into Krythar airspace, alarms flared. They saw us coming. Of course they did. But it didn't matter. The vault wasn't built to defend against us. We came in from all sides. Cathari warships cloaked until the last second. Zarkari drills puncturing the station shell. Human dropships filled with fire and fury. The battle lasted 6 hours. We lost 3 cruisers, a dozen fighters, 1 entire squad of Urdai. But we won. We cracked open the vault, and inside was Hell's armory. Council tech no one was supposed to see. Time-slowing weapons, flesh-splitting charges, mech suits that fed off adrenaline, our eye systems too intelligent to be trusted. We didn't even understand half of it. Didn't matter. We were going to figure it out, and then we were going to use it. Every single piece. But there was something else inside the vault. Something unexpected. Records, files, footage, proof. Of every betrayal, every culling, every genocide the Council had orchestrated for centuries. Not just humans. Not just Zarkari. Thousands of species. Entire civilizations erased, rewritten, denied. The Council hadn't just been corrupt. They were architects of a long, quiet holocaust, stretching back hundreds of years. We downloaded it all, broadcasted it to every system, every comm satellite, every outpost, every race that had ever been told to trust the peace. And the galaxy woke up. What started as a human uprising had now become something else. Not a rebellion, not a war, a reckoning. The galaxy didn't blink. It screamed. The moment the vault footage went public, the system cracked. The broadcast hit thousands of planets. Every archive, every independent relay, every black market data exchange. Flooded. Generations of truth, rotting behind council walls, now spilling out like infection into the bloodstream of the stars. Entire planets went dark, not from damage, from rage. Governments collapsed overnight. Colonies once loyal to the Council tore down their banners. Their own enforcers defected or disappeared. Council envoys were hunted, strung up in public square domes, sometimes tortured, sometimes simply spaced out the nearest airlock. We didn't tell anyone to revolt. We didn't need to. The truth had done what no weapon ever could. It made people remember what the Council really was. The Council tried to respond, spin the story, deny it, call it ancient history. They rolled out their polished spokespersons again, the ones who blinked at the right rhythm and spoke in soothing tones. But this time, no one listened. The voice of a Deathworlder had replaced the voice of peace. Earth was quiet. That was strange. Too strange. After the bombing of New Geneva, we'd expected fire, retaliation, uprising, something. But instead, the feeds went silent. No protests, no military movements, no word from command, just official broadcasts about rebuilding efforts and stability programs. It didn't feel like strength. It felt like fear. Or worse, compliance. Tarek intercepted a hidden signal coming from deep EarthGov channels, buried under 6 layers of encryption. Almost missed it. What he found made me want to burn everything down. The Earth Council, what was left of it, had made a deal with the same council that bombed us, a reunification pact, secretly signed. In exchange for immunity and tech shares, Earth would distance itself from rogue military operations, namely us, and agree to council monitoring of its remaining orbital defense platforms. They'd sold us out. Again. The bastards who wore our flags on their uniforms had handed us over like meat to wolves. I gathered the crew, what was left of them. Only a dozen across 3 ships now, but we'd taken down stations, fleets, planets. We didn't need numbers. We needed clarity. I laid out what we'd found. The vault, the footage, the EarthGov betrayal, the silence from home. The Council's attempt to reboot the lie. Then I said the one thing I never thought I would. We go back to Earth. Maddox looked like I'd shot him in the stomach. After everything we've done? He asked. They'll shoot us down before we land. I nodded. Maybe, but we're not going back for their permission. We're going back to remind them who the hell we are. We took a stealth jump through the Zarkari fringe, moved through blind zones, masked by debris clouds and dead comm satellites. Old school tricks. But they worked. The Council wasn't watching for a small fleet returning to the place they'd already broken. They thought Earth was pacified. Done. Folded under pressure like good little pets. They were wrong. We broke atmosphere over the Pacific at midnight. The orbital net picked us up instantly. Missile locks, drone swarms, proximity alerts, but no weapons fired. They hesitated. We didn't. We dropped fast, skimming the ocean, and hit Old Anchorage Base, one of the pre-Council fortresses long since decommissioned. Turns out it wasn't empty. Inside were scavengers. Mercs. Ex-soldiers who didn't buy the EarthGov lies either. Men and women who'd watched the New Geneva flames and knew damn well who had pushed the button. They called us ghosts, heroes, terrorists, but mostly, they called us right. We didn't hide. We sent a signal. Public. Unencrypted. This is Captain Roar. No, that's not who I am anymore. I'm not military, I'm not command. I tried again. This is a Deathworlder. From Drellin, from Halari, from Araban, from every place you watched burn while Earth stayed silent. We're back. We have proof. We have tech. And we're not asking for your support. We're offering you a choice. Keep licking their boots, or stand the hell up. The feed was open for 12 hours, long enough for the world to start listening, long enough for EarthGov to respond. A man came through the next broadcast, high-ranking, polished suit, voice like a father pretending to scold a child. He called us militants, said we were threatening peace, said Earth was already on the path to healing, said the galaxy needed stability, not another war. Then he said something that made my blood boil. The Council recognizes Earth's potential. We are no longer a death world. We are a beacon of progress. A beacon. That's what they called a graveyard. I gave the order, not to attack Earth. Not yet. We needed to wake the people first, so we dropped the vault files. Everything. All the Council's experiments, their sterilization programs, the forced genetic drift. The truth about the first human colony that disappeared, not due to failure, but harvest. The entire EarthNet went dark for 12 minutes under the load. Then came the chaos. Riots, uprisings, entire cities refusing to comply with EarthGov directives, military units defecting. We weren't just a story anymore. We were proof. And still, they refused to give in. Because it wasn't just about truth, it was about power. The men in charge had grown fat on compliance, and power doesn't step down. It has to be dragged out, kicking and bleeding. So we prepared the next phase. Not just for Earth, for the galaxy. We had the Council's war machines now, their data, their secrets, and we were going to hand them out, freely, to anyone who had the guts to stand up. We called it the Ember Protocol, one file, one blueprint, one key to building your own damn fleet, and we sent it everywhere. The stars lit up like kindling. The Vular forged a new resistance. The fractured Sornan tribes united for the first time in 400 years. Even the Skarn, silent, neutral, hiding in the cold corners of the galaxy, rose up, armed with tech they were never meant to touch. The Council lost 12 systems in 5 days. They tried diplomacy again. Tried threats. But the fire was already spreading. We were no longer the enemy. We were the match that lit the pyre. Back on Earth, EarthGov made one last desperate move. Martial law, all major cities locked down. Media silenced. Dissenters rounded up, branded as radicals. They wanted control back. But it was too late. The people weren't afraid of us anymore. They were afraid of the ones who let Earth get gutted, then called it peace. The Council's response? Final escalation. A cleansing fleet. 10 ships the size of moons. They called it Operation Dawnlight. Their goal? Erase the problem planets, Earth included, glass them, leave nothing, make the galaxy afraid again. We intercepted the transmission. And now? Now we prepare for the endgame, because this won't be a battle. It will be extinction, one side or the other. We are Deathworlders. We were born in fire, raised in chaos, forged by betrayal, and we will return it. With interest. The sky above Earth hadn't looked this black in centuries, not because of night, but because something was blocking the stars. The cleansing fleet had arrived. 10 city-sized ships, each with enough firepower to crack a crust layer. Orbital bombardment vessels, anti-civilization weapons. They weren't designed for conquest. They were made for erasure. For example, the Council didn't come to negotiate anymore. This was their version of a final sermon. One broadcast across every planet still under their grip. The feed went out galaxy-wide. A pale-skinned Thalrex commander stood in front of a burning planetary backdrop. Not Earth, some other world they'd already leveled, and spoke like it was routine. Earth has violated Council peace. Its citizens harbored traitors, war criminals, terrorists. Final judgment has been issued. Then the screen turned red. The word cleansing approved blinked in 300 dialects, and silence followed. The kind that comes before a scream. On the Vindicator, we were already moving. Anchorage base had been reactivated. The underground bunkers were humming again. Resistance cells across Earth had finally shed the illusion that peace would ever come from above. But we weren't ready to watch Earth burn. Not again. Not while we were still breathing. We had maybe 6 hours before the first kinetic rods fell. That's all. 6 hours to mobilize every scrap of resistance across Earth's crust, to coordinate with our off-world allies, and to somehow stop the most advanced death fleet ever constructed from turning our home into ash. We didn't have half the firepower we needed. But we had the Ember Protocol. And now, we had friends. The Zarkari arrived first, clawed and vicious, wrapped in heat-shielded armor stitched with Earth's old flag. They brought siege weapons that looked like molten bone, piloted by creatures who hadn't slept since their nests were burned by council fire a decade ago. Then the Kethari assassins came, not in fleets, but in precision blades. They disabled early warning systems on 3 of the Council's dreadnoughts before a single Deathworlder had even launched. After that came chaos. A Skarn merchant fleet that had retrofitted their freighters with salvaged death beams, Urdai berserkers riding one-man pods, suicide-charging reactors, even the rogue Thalrex, council defectors, barely tolerated, showed up in fractured ships and whispered, "Let us atone!" The entire universe had watched Earth bleed. Now they wanted to see her fight. And we, the outcasts, gave them a reason to. I stood on the command deck of the Vindicator, watching the blips appear on the holomap like angry fireflies. The cleansing fleet was organizing, forming a geodesic burn pattern over the planet, orbital paths, calculated trajectories. They were going to carve Earth up like a goddamn pumpkin. But they forgot one thing. Deathworlders don't run. We bite. I grabbed the comm. "All fire teams, this is it. This is the moment your grandkids won't believe. You've bled. You've lost. You've screamed into the dark and thought nobody heard. Well, look around. The whole galaxy's listening now." I let the silence sit. Let's show them what extinction really feels like. We launched Atmo. 22 warships, 50 drop pods, 2 mechs retrofitted from old council tech, 1 goddamn vengeance missile stitched together by Tarek out of a plasma core, and a reactor meltdown device we stole from Araban. He called it Earth's middle finger. Perfect. The battle started before we even cleared the exosphere. Council drones, tens of thousands, tiny, fast, equipped with micro-disintegration beams. They looked like sparks, but each one could bore a hole through reinforced hull. We lost 5 ships in the first 10 minutes. Just gone. No screaming, no time to even eject, just death in the vacuum. But we pushed forward. The Zarkari war cruisers deployed something new. Sonic distortion fields that shattered drone coordination. The drones started colliding, misfiring. It bought us 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, we boarded the first dreadnought. Maddox led the breach, still limping from the Araban blast, but moving like a man with nothing left to lose. Inside, the corridors were sterile, silver, cold, lit with pale blue. A council trademark. Make death look peaceful. We carved our way through. Grenades, slugs, knives. Tarek hacked the main reactor node. 60 seconds till detonation, he yelled. We ran, firing behind us, bodies dropping, friend and foe. We barely made it to the dropship before the explosion. And when that dreadnought cracked open like a rib cage and burned across the sky, it felt like a god answering us back. 9 dreadnoughts left. And now they were angry. The cleansing fleet stopped coordinating. They stopped calculating. They started bombing blind. Shanghai cratered. Siberia disappeared. The east coast of the old US went dark. They weren't cleansing anymore. They were flailing, and that was a mistake, because in chaos, humans thrive. I took a direct hit outside the Himalayas. A kinetic rod punched straight through our lower hull. Tarek was knocked unconscious. Blood in his mouth. I thought he was dead. I dragged him through fire, through smoke, through a hole in the floor where the air whistled thin and deadly. We fell 2 decks before I found a sealable compartment. I don't remember much after that. Just screaming, fire, choking, then blackness. When I woke up, I was back on Earth, in Anchorage again. Maddox sat next to me, bloodied, arm in a sling. They pulled you from the wreck, he said. Tarek's alive. 2 broken ribs, minor brain bleed, already trying to reprogram missile guidance like a lunatic. I tried to stand. My body laughed at me. Then Maddox said something that wiped everything else away. 2 dreadnoughts down, 3rd one falling. But there's a problem. I looked at him. Go on. They're bringing down the Oblivion Lance. My heart stopped. That wasn't just a ship. That was the weapon. A black sight-level device. Hidden, denied, whispers only. No official schematics. The Oblivion Lance didn't just destroy planets. It unraveled existence. It bent gravity, light, and time in a localized zone until everything collapsed into non-being. Even death wasn't left behind. We had one shot. The middle finger. Tarek's insane creation. It wasn't ready. It would barely fly. It had a 47% chance of detonating on launch. But it was the only thing we had left that could punch a hole through the Lance's shielding and detonate before it activated. Tarek didn't ask for volunteers. He just climbed in, wired to the core. He looked at me, pale and bruised, eyes like frozen flame. Tell my sister I made them feel it. I grabbed his shoulder. She already knows. The launch was ugly. Smoke, sparks. The ship shuddered like it wanted to die before leaving the ground. But it rose, faster than anything we'd ever built, straight through the upper orbit, straight through their line of fire, straight toward the heart of the Oblivion Lance. They tried to stop it. Drones, lasers, shields. Didn't matter. Tarek flew straight into the core. And then the sky caught fire. We saw it from Anchorage. The flash. Not light, not heat, but absence. The Oblivion Lance didn't explode. It ceased, erased, unwritten, gone. And with it, the final hope the Council had of reclaiming fear. It took 3 more days to finish the cleanup. 4 more dreadnoughts disabled. 2 captured. 1 fled. We let it go. Let it tell the story. Let it warn. We buried Tarek in the Arctic. The wind howled the whole time. Like Earth itself was mourning its son. The Council still exists. Somewhere, scattered, wounded. But the galaxy doesn't look to them anymore. Now they look to the Deathworlders. Not for orders, for courage. Earth still smolders in places. Some cities won't rebuild. Some scars won't fade. But we're still here. And we're no longer begging for a seat at the table. We own the table now. And if the Council ever dares rise again, they'll remember this. You don't start a war with Deathworlders unless you're ready to finish it in fire. War ends differently for the ones who survive. Not with cheers, not with banners, but with silence. The kind of silence that stretches through the halls of burned-out ships. The kind that leaks into your skull when the adrenaline fades, and all that's left is blood on your boots and ghosts in your chest. The Council was broken. The cleansing fleet shattered. But Earth didn't feel like a victory. Cities still smoldered. Graves outnumbered the living in some districts. Whole continents ran on backup power. And for those of us who fought, really fought, there was no parade waiting, no medals, no speeches, just more silence. Maddox limped through Anchorage's lower deck with a bottle of synthetic whiskey and a cigarette that smelled like burnt wires. Looks like they're forming a new provisional government, he grunted, calling it the Unified Earth Assembly. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. Same bastards wearing different suits? Some of them. Some new ones, too. Kids, mostly. Idealists. People who think peace is something you can negotiate. I didn't laugh. Not because it wasn't funny, but because I'd forgotten how. Peace. That word had been thrown at us like an insult. Now it was being plastered across posters in New Geneva, as if a rebrand could erase what had happened. The galaxy had shifted. Power vacuums don't stay empty. With the Council fractured, the former member worlds started splintering. Alliances, coalitions, warlords, even some human colonies that had broken off decades ago came crawling back, claiming solidarity. They smelled opportunity. And blood. Always blood. The Zarkari retreated into their home system, not out of fear but disgust. They'd done their part. Now they wanted to rebuild, away from the politics. The Cathari? Gone. Vanished without a trace. That's how they operated. Assassins. They kill, they vanish, they watch. And Earth started pretending the fire hadn't touched it. That was the new war, rewriting the story. Already, EarthGov historians were whitewashing the resistance, calling us rogue factions, saying we endangered Earth with our aggression. Tarek died to save this planet. Now they wanted to bury his name. I walked the ruins of New Geneva 3 weeks after the battle. No armor, no rifle, just a worn jacket and boots that felt heavier than my whole body. I found the crater where the Council's first rod had hit. Used to be a hospital there. Gone now, just ash and melted steel. A little girl was planting flowers at the edge of the blast zone. Must have been 7, maybe 8. She had one arm. Probably lost the other when the first bombs fell. But her face was calm. Like the world hadn't just turned inside out. "Were you here when it happened?" I asked. She nodded. "I hid under the stairs. Mommy didn't make it." I crouched next to her. "Why the flowers?" "So people don't forget." I looked at her. Really looked. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just knew. That night, I went back to the Vindicator. Maddox was in the hangar, stripping out our last kinetic battery. Said we didn't need it anymore. "We're not soldiers now," he said. "Might as well start living like it." But I couldn't. I knew what was coming. We weren't done. Not even close. The next week proved me right. A message came through a hidden relay. Not Council, not EarthGov. Encrypted. Only one line. They're regrouping in the Ophir Fringe, building something. No name. No confirmation. But I recognized the encryption signature. Irtan, the Cathari assassin who helped us breach Araban core. If he was reaching out, it meant something worse than we expected. The Council wasn't dead, not all of it. The bureaucrats, the cowards, they were gone. But the real power had always been in the shadows. Military remnants, secret labs, the ones who didn't need votes to make decisions. And if they were hiding in Ophir, they weren't retreating. They were rebuilding. Maddox didn't like it. "We just survived extinction. Now you want to chase ghosts across the galaxy?" "We don't chase them," I said. "We hunt them." But the crew was tired. Hell, I was tired. So I gave them a choice. For the first time in years, I didn't give orders. I stood in the Vindicator's hangar, scarred and silent, and said, "This isn't our war anymore. Earth is free. We did what we had to do. But if they're out there, regrouping, planning another purge, then I'm not going to wait around for the next message. If you want out, I'll understand." Nobody moved. Maddox lit another cigarette. "You think we came this far to stop before the job's done?" Vera, now half metal from the waist down, slammed her fist on the console. "They tried to erase us. My sister. My home. I want to see them bleed." Even the rookies, those who'd never seen Drellin or Halari, stood tall. They'd grown up in fire, and they weren't afraid to burn a little more. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing. The Ember Protocol had done more than arm rebels. It had inspired a new generation of engineers, mechanics, and AI techs who wanted to build something not for empires, but for vengeance. We outfitted the Vindicator with a new drive core, half organic, pulled from Cathari designs. It moved faster than any ship had a right to. Our weapons? Upgraded with Council-grade displacers, but modified with Earth tactics. No fancy safeties, no delays. Just raw power. And then we set course for the Ophir Fringe. The system was quiet. Too quiet. No communications, no interference, just dead rock and empty moons. But we knew better. The Council's black cells were experts at hiding under your nose. Tarek would have cracked their firewalls in minutes. But Tarek was gone. So we did it the hard way. We scouted, searched, waited. And on the 5th day, the sky shimmered. A ripple in space, the kind you don't notice unless you're trained to. Behind it, hidden in phase warp distortion, floated something massive. Not a ship, not exactly. A platform, built into the bones of a dead planetoid, a black structure pulsing with low, rhythmic energy. The same energy signature used by the Oblivion Lance. They were building another one. No. Something worse. A weapon designed not to destroy planets, but rewrite them. We didn't know what it did, but we didn't need to. If the Council was behind it, it had only one purpose: domination. I looked at the crew. This wasn't going to be another siege, another glorious final stand. This was going to be surgical, quick, precise, ruthless, one strike team, one objective: kill everyone, destroy everything. We prepped in silence. Suited up. No speeches, no drama. We weren't heroes anymore. We were the shadow that comes after the torchlight dies. As we boarded the strike shuttle, I looked back at the Vindicator. Our ship. Our home. She'd carried us through hell, and she would wait for us on the other side. Because no matter how deep the Council buried itself, we would finish the job. The last mission wasn't loud. There were no orbital alarms screaming in panic, no fleets meeting in glorious combat, no declarations, no final ultimatums. It was death, delivered in silence. We entered the Ophir Fringe's shadow station under full cloak, the Vindicator drifting in low orbit like a ghost. The weapon they were building inside, half machine, half anomaly, pulsed in and out of space, bending light and time like a black hole caught mid-breath. It had a name, etched in alien runes on the outer hull. Project Requiem. They weren't just building another Oblivion Lance. They were trying to overwrite the laws of reality, a weapon that could erase species, not just from existence, but from memory. No record, no mourning, no trace they were ever born. This wasn't domination anymore. It was finality. We launched the breach team on a silent insertion trajectory. 6 of us. No backup, no evac window. Either we ended it inside, or we died in the dark. Maddox took point. His leg brace clicked with every step, but his eyes were locked forward. He wasn't here to come home. He was here to settle the score. Vara moved like a machine now. The metal fused to her nerves didn't slow her anymore. She'd stopped treating her injuries like loss. Now they were just weapons. 2 new recruits, Callan and Drex, came with us. Young, angry, smart, ready to kill something they didn't understand. And me? No rank, no title, just a man carrying names in his head like scars that would never fade. Tarek, Redden, Kenzie, Ward, Reese, all of them with me, always. The inside of the Requiem facility was sterile, cold, deeper than it looked from orbit. It went on and on like a buried cathedral to extinction. We didn't hesitate. We cut down guards, avoided cameras, sliced through defense protocols, every step in sync, drilled like muscle memory born in war. At the center of the station, we found the heart, a chamber of energy, held in place by spires of dark matter and rotating gravity anchors. Machines hummed with frequencies that made our bones itch. Every surface glowed dimly, as if the metal itself was alive. In the middle stood the director, not alien, human, gray suit, clean face, thin smile. He turned as if he'd been expecting us. "Welcome," he said. "You're late." For a second, no one moved. Not even Maddox. The director raised one hand, casually. "You've won your little war. Very impressive. Drellin, Halari, Araban, all of it. You made your point." I stepped forward, my rifle aimed straight at his skull. "This ends here?" He nodded. "It does, but not the way you think." Behind him, the weapon pulsed. Not finished, but close. "Do you understand what Requiem is?" he asked. "It's not just destruction. It's liberation. No pain, no memory, just silence. For everyone. For everything." You're insane." He tilted his head. "And you're still fighting for the ashes of a broken world, don't you see? The Council failed because they tried to rule life. But if you erase life altogether, then there's no rebellion, no resistance, just nothing." He smiled. "A perfect peace. I fired. Not a warning. I burned a hole through his head and let his body drop without ceremony." Vara moved to the console instantly. "I can shut it down. Give me 60 seconds. Callan and Drex secured the exits. Maddox and I turned outward, watching the corridors, counting the seconds in our heads. But the station wasn't dead. The director might have been the mouthpiece, but someone else had pulled the trigger, and that someone activated the defense AI. The walls shifted. Turrets unfolded from the ceiling. Drones spilled from vents. Floors opened to reveal gun mounts. Everything started screaming. We fought like animals. No tactics, no formations, just survival. Maddox got clipped in the shoulder, again, but stayed upright. Drex lost a leg to a plasma burst and kept firing from the floor, snarling curses between each shot. Callan died next to me, hit in the neck. No sound, just a bubble of blood and a hand reaching toward something he couldn't grab. I didn't have time to mourn. I kept shooting. 30 seconds, Vera yelled. Sweat poured down her temple. Sparks flew from the console. I covered her back, dropping 2 drones and slamming my last mag into the chamber. Maddox leaned against the wall, reloading with one arm, breathing hard. "You think we'll make it?" he asked. I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "Didn't think so." The room shook. Something massive was coming online. The core began pulsing faster. A low, humming sound crawled into our teeth. The entire floor vibrated. Vara screamed, "It's trying to auto-fire." "I need to overload the control spindle, but it's manual." "Meaning?" She looked at me. "Meaning someone has to stay behind." Maddox didn't wait. He limped forward and pressed his hand to the emergency override. "You did your part," he said to me. "Get the hell out." I grabbed him. "No." He shoved me back, harder than I expected. "You said it yourself. We finished the job." Then he smiled, bloody and tired. "I just never expected to live this long." I wanted to argue, to fight, but I saw it in his face. He wasn't asking for permission. He was ready. So I backed away. Slowly. Vara pulled me by the arm. Drex crawled after us. The override door slammed shut behind us as the core began to melt down. Maddox stayed inside. We made it to the evac pod, launched seconds before the entire platform lit up like a dying star. No explosion, no fireball, just a collapse. Like reality itself took a deep breath and then exhaled into nothing. The Requiem weapon was gone. The black sight erased. Maddox vanished with it. We drifted in silence. Me, Vara, and Drex, bleeding, shaking, empty. Back toward the Vindicator. Back toward a galaxy that would never know how close it came to disappearing. When we returned to Earth, there were no medals, no press, no fanfare. Just a small plaque carved in stone, placed in the crater where Tarek once stood. On it, no names, just 5 words. They came. We finished it. The galaxy still burns in places. The Council's shadows linger in corners we haven't found. But they'll never rise again. Because now, every time a tyrant speaks, someone whispers, "Remember the Deathworlders," and the tyrant falls silent. We never asked for this war. We didn't start it. We were mocked, hunted, betrayed. But when the time came, we didn't beg. We didn't bow, we fought, and we reminded the galaxy. If you send one message to a Deathworlder, you better be ready for the reply.